James Jones, my co-host there, Tobie. We're here on Clock TV at C3, we like to call it. And we just want to say thank you for your time and thank you for being here. Last week, to give a quick caption, we were talking about relationships. And we thoroughly enjoy ourselves about relationships. And relationships matter. And we do not really get taught about relationships and how to properly have them. Matter of fact, when our guests come on, I like for her to always introduce herself, but she said something very relative about relationships. And it's because we don't get taught them, we don't know how to handle them. So a lot of the relationships is a hit and miss. You know, we take stuff from relationships we had and try to bring them into new relationships and they don't work out. Or we try to play the game where we just want to get physical and then we want to move on. And so with those types of relationships, people are carrying baggage and they hurt other people. And so with that, I want to say thank you for being here, and let's get this show on the road. Tobie, my man, do you have anything you need to say or like to say?
Well, with Miss Nicole last week, I learned a thing or two. About relationships because he never stopped learning. So, you know, how to balance the personalities, balancing the egos, and just balancing it out. I learned a ton from her last week, and and I'm sure everything she gave us last week is going to help other people. So I'm really glad that we're having a part 2 this week. Well, we're having a part 2, and there she is, ladies and gentlemen. That is Miss Nicole Scott.
Yes, it is.
Welcome back for part 2.
Thank you for having me.
For part 2, this is exciting, really exciting. I was just telling our viewers and the general how great you were last week and how we learned a thing or two, from everything you shared with us as for relationships. I say, it's all about balance in the world we live in today. It's all about, balance. When one's hot, the other one's got to be cold. The other one's cold, the other one's got to be hot. So
absolutely,
that's the kind of world I live in now, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. So welcome back, Ms. Scott. Welcome back.
Yes, thank you for having me. Thank you. So where we gonna pick up? Where we leave off?
I know the general got questions.
What you got? Questions all week long, probably.
Yep. And I'm sure you gave him and me something to think about. But I want the general to take the lead today.
Okay. I don't know. You guys are very different, the two of you. Let me ask you, the general, are you in a relationship right now, currently?
What?
Are you married?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you are married. How long have you been married?
Over 25 years, with her for 28.
Okay. I can tell the difference between the two.
Wow.
So my question, I always have questions. Like Sherlock Holmes, they always lead you to the truth. And the objectivity of a good teacher is to always give you a question to help you find the answer yourself. So I heard something this week that was thought-provoking. And it had to do with men. And the brother came off hard. He was like, ladies, I need you to understand something about a man.
Okay.
If the man is not prepared for you, then do you think that he can be prepared getting prepared while he's in the relationship? Or
if he wants to.
Huh?
I say if he wants to, it all depends. I feel like a lot of times men use it as a crutch to say, you know, well, my finances aren't where they need to be, so I don't want to be in a committed relationship, or I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. The whole point of two people coming together is a partnership, right? So that woman can actually help, you know, maybe where there's some deficiencies or maybe where he needs some assistance. That's what we're there for. But a lot of times men use that as a way to not be in a committed relationship. And I feel if that is what you're going to do, then maybe you don't need to date at all. You know, don't play with it.
Okay. So them brothers out there with them 450 credit scores, might be somebody out there with you.
If you got a 450 credit score, don't date. Work on getting your credit together, because who's gonna buy the house? Right? You want to. This is the thing. This is the reality of it. Maybe some people may not want to hear this, but you want your woman to respect you, right? If she doesn't respect you, then it's not going to be a good partnership, right? You're not gonna feel needed. You know, she's gonna alpha you. Like he says, the alpha woman, she's gonna take control. And that's okay if you have a balance where maybe the man, he's stronger in certain areas and maybe she's stronger in certain areas, and you two come together as a partnership and you decide together. But you don't want a woman just coming in and then just taking over your entire life and telling you what to do. And a woman doesn't want to do that. If she wanted to do that, she would just have a child, right? We don't want a child. We want a man who can come in and allow us to be soft, allow us to sit back, you know, and relax a little bit while he takes over. Like, I wish I could just fall back and just let someone come in, but I gotta be able to trust him. If I don't trust him, it's gonna be a nightmare. It's gonna be a nightmare because I'm gonna pick apart everything that he does. Right? I'm not going to have confidence in what he does. I'm going to question him. I'm going to ask a million questions rather just sitting back and letting him lead. It's going to be a disaster. And he's going to begin to resent me because of that.
I'm going to contradict
I have
that.
a question. I have a question.
Oh, the producer has a question. Oh, man. Clear the way.
Hey, I just had to jump in. So you have the agent that comes in. I'll call it the agent. And just how he put it out there where with the whole credit thing, it can go either way. Sometimes you don't even know that situation until you get involved. Mm-hmm. And I think, like I said, some people just move too fast and don't think about the other things. Mm-hmm. The next thing you know, a lot of those things that comes up and creep up. How what's the go about in that situation?
So let me just say this. That some years ago, probably about 10 years ago, actually, guys, I was down on my luck. I lost everything and I had to move back in with my parents. And this went on for about 3 years while I was working to get back on my feet. And me and my mom actually had an argument about this because I refused to date. She was like, you just need to get out the house and go somewhere and do something. I said, Mom, I'm not in a position to do that because there is a certain expectation that I have of a man that's going to come into my life, but I got to meet him, right? I can't have these expectations of him and I don't have it. Like whatever I expect of you, I'm going to bring it to the table too. I'm not going to expect anything of you that I cannot provide. And so I refuse to date. I'm living in home with my parents. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when I say I lost everything, I lost everything. And it wasn't because of lack of employment. It's just I went through, this is where my show comes in. It was all inspired by a failed relationship, guys. And I literally got stuck like in a life's mess and couldn't move forward. I was messed up. And so this is when I started working on my businesses and focusing on those things. And I was living in North Carolina with my family, and I knew I wasn't going to live there. I knew that wasn't home. So I wasn't even looking for employment there. So that's when I began to write the business plans and do all those things. But I say all that to say, I refused to get involved with someone, right? And until I felt like I was ready, until I felt like I had something to bring to the table, right? I didn't feel adequate to go out because I'm not just going to date anybody, right? Even though I had lost my thing, I still had a standard for myself. So I wasn't going to go and be like, well, you got to do this and you got to have that. And then he look at me and be like, well, you living at home with your mama. So I would never let that happen. So I took a break. I took a break until I could get myself together. And then when I felt like and I didn't have it all together when I stepped back out there, but at least I felt I was employed. You know, I had a roof over my head. I was driving. So, but I'm not going to do that if I don't have those things together, because I don't have anything to bring into the relationship. And I'm going to tell you right now, a person is going to resent you. It may be all fun and games in the beginning, but if you cannot pull your weight in the relationship, and especially if the relationship doesn't already have a foundation where you guys have gotten to know each other, and then maybe one person fell on hard times, that's different. But I'm talking about when you're going into a situation and your situation is jacked up. Nobody's going to empathize with that. After a while, they're going to resent you and be like, they can't even do this or they can't even do that. You know, I don't care what they say, that is going to happen. So I say, take your time and ask the right questions. You may not know a person's credit score, but you can kind of look at their lifestyle and see what's really going on if you pay attention. If you pay attention. I had another situation where I was dating a gentleman. I was so smitten by this guy. I just thought he was so attractive. I just thought, oh my God. And this dude actually said to me, this is when I first moved to Atlanta. I was living with my cousin, working on CheMinistry, trying to get on my feet, do all these amazing things. And this dude said to me, what do you bring to the table? Now, I'm the ambitious one, but I'm trying to get back on my feet. I'm hustling. And I didn't understand what he meant when he said that to me, because this is someone who knew me when I was on my feet and had owned a home, drove the luxury car, but I had lost everything. And now I'm working to get it back, right? And this dude said, I never want someone to be able to say that to me. And this is a side note, because y'all, that dude did say that to me, but now he's looking at me like, damn. Yeah, you don't never judge a book by its cover. Be friendly, be nice. I didn't say cut anybody off, but just pace yourself, slow it down, get to know the person, observe. And I was so smitten by this dude, not realizing, like, I was looking at his little Pradas on his feet, but this dude had a later model car than mine, living in an apartment. He wasn't doing that much better than me, but because I was so blinded by his physical appearance, the clothes that he wore, that went over my head. So I didn't even realize, like, if I paid attention, I'd be like, well, wait a minute, he made me feel so bad, but he's not bringing anything more. Like, I'm hustling on my grind. I know what I'm doing. But he's not bringing much more to the table. So he was looking for a woman he had this image of the type of woman that he wanted to be with. And I didn't align with that at the time. So I say, even in situations like that, where maybe I didn't meet his standard, maybe just slow it down and give it.
He couldn't afford it anyway.
Huh?
He couldn't afford it anyway.
Yeah, you're right. It's about the character of a person, but you can definitely tell when somebody is responsible, even if they don't have as much. You can tell when somebody is responsible with their finances through the conversation. You can see how they're living. You can see, if you spend enough time around them, how they move, how they operate with money. You know, and be aware. Don't be blinded. Don't be so blinded that you can't see what's right before you, and then you get stuck and a jacked up. I could tell you stories about, there's another gentleman, I thought he was so attractive, and this dude, he didn't even have a car. He wasn't ambitious. He lived in this was when I was in my 20s, y'all. I wasn't as grown as I am now. I was just out of college, let's be clear. But I thought I could change, right? I thought I could change him and motivate him, and I thought I could make him into who I wanted him to be, because he had potential, right? But potential is not reality. And so everything I'm saying, I've lived it. I grew to resent him. And eventually I wandered off into another situation. I was in my 20s, but I'm just saying that we get so caught up in, oh, he looks this, he looks that, but no, pay attention. Because the moment that someone comes along and has all the things, the check boxes, you're going to be right on out the door. That's what's going to happen. So don't settle is what I'm saying. Don't settle. Ask the right questions. Be observant. Watch. Pay attention. Don't be so desperate. Don't be so quick to jump into a relationship. That situation. This is your life. So you have a right to observe and pay attention and make good decisions. It's all about making better decisions. But don't be too hard, because you'll be that dude and a me. And now he's looking at me like, oh my God. See. But I had to hustle though. I had to hustle and I had the character, but he was just looking at what was happening right then. I was hustling then. So, but that's just, because it just wasn't the right pick the right connection anyway.
So in your teachable moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said before our producer Courtney came and asked that question,
Okay.
I was going to disagree with you. And this is the part where I kind of disagree with you at, is society, what you're saying is very relevant and very true. But society, in the way it's conducting itself,
Mm-hmm.
is saying something totally different, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's saying that what I see is that a lot of young ladies do want to be, especially here in the ATL, they do want to be the boss lady. They do want to take control. And I would say a lot of men.
Not of a man, though, of their own life. I want to be the boss, but I want a man who can come in and when he speaks, I pay attention. I can't, because I can't function if you don't have that type of leadership. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to look at you like, what is going on? And with a personality like mine, you got to be able to not necessarily be controlling, but just take control.
Be assertive.
Right. It got to be that way or it's not going to work. That's not attractive either. It's not. And you don't have to be an alpha man to be able to like stand firm in that. You could be a beta, it's okay, but you just can't let no woman just run all over you either, because that's not attractive.
No, it's not. But I'm saying from the point of view of society, it looks totally different.
But we're forced to. We're forced. Like, what we gonna do?
Okay, so men, right, who don't have that leadership, and the reason why we're falling into this because there are not a lot of men leaders, right?
Yes.
And the few we have, a lot of people get attracted to them. Right?
Yeah.
And then the people who need them don't really get that time. So they're grasping at straws, or the word I like to use is what you learned in your 20s were consequences which you corrected as you got older from those relationships, because they taught. But if you don't have anybody to teach you, then yes, those attractions that those men have to those alpha ladies, because they probably got an alpha mom, and that's what they learned.
Right. So you're saying that these men who are not as
assertive,
as assertive, but see them like you don't have to be like an alpha, but you have to be assertive in areas where it matters. Like you just can't let someone, if you're passionate about something, you can't let a woman just come in and just take control. Like you're gonna be miserable, first of all. And I'm a woman saying that. You're gonna be miserable and you're gonna resent her because it's not gonna be what you want.
Exactly. But I watch a lot of people play the game where what she wants is what she gets because that's what she wants. And they what was that saying? Happy wife, happy
life. Right. Yeah, he gonna cheat though. He gonna cheat though, General. He gonna cheat. Cheat.
Right, because the cleanup woman's gonna come.
Yeah, he's gonna cheat. So you don't want that man. You don't want to be able to control your man because he is going to cheat. That's just like the situation where I had Martell Hope from Love and Marriage Huntsville. He was a guest on my show, and these women they took me through there. But I kind of rolled with him because he was the one who was a little bit more passive in his marriage, and his wife she had a dominant personality. Right. But he cheated and had a child outside of his marriage, and they just ate him alive because of what he did. But if you watch the show, you can see how she was the dominant one. And whenever he made an attempt to speak to her about certain things, she just kind of brushed it off.
Right.
She just brushed it off and he just sat there quiet. He didn't have a whole lot to say. And the next thing you know, he's outside. He's having an affair with another woman. I mean, he said on the show that the night that he met this young lady, that she told him, why don't you go find a girlfriend? Like, you don't never want to get to a point where you tell your man, go find a girlfriend,
Because he's saying that I want to go look for a boyfriend. That's what it's saying to me.
Yeah, well, that's because he was the one that was kind of just he was at home. He helped take care of the kids. He's very active in the children's lives. She was a career woman. He was career too, but she was doing her thing, and he was at home with the kids and just a little bit more passive in his behavior. And he was cheating the entire time.
Right, but you know what is amazing that most people don't see about that? People make choices based off their values.
Mm-hmm.
And he valued the relationship with the
Mm-hmm.
children more than he valued the relationship of the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And he chose the greater to build that because he couldn't build the marriage.
Right,
So
and his wife wouldn't hear him. And now people, they when I tell you they give that man a hard time, they gave me a hard time for signing him, but you can see where he made attempts to express his concerns with his wife. She didn't want to hear it.
Right.
Now, these people who watch her show, who love, because they got a lot of fans, she didn't want to hear what the man had to say. Okay.
Right.
She did not want to hear it. And as a result, he went out and got another woman. That's just the truth of it. You can like it, you can not like it.
He was disrespecting him.
Very much disrespecting him.
He was disrespecting him. What did he
Yes.
expect?
Absolutely.
What did he expect?
Absolutely. But these people,
I'm not saying it's right what he did.
It's not right. I don't agree with these.
But it's a frustration thing. He was frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
The man was frustrated. He had nowhere else to go, and he needed a solace. He needed a place of comfort, somewhere he could go to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's wrong what he's did. Don't get me, please. Let me make this clear to everyone. It was totally wrong. There was a different way to go about it. But he was frustrated.
Mm-hmm. And that's the part that I wanted him.
Right.
They wanted him to take accountability for what he did, but I would allow him to do that on my show. I said, because that's not what this show is. I want to know, what were you thinking when you made that decision to go and have an affair and go outside of and step outside of your marriage? That's why you're here on this show.
Right.
I could care less about you accepting responsibility, because he was trying to just to get the people off his back. I wouldn't allow him to do that. I said, because there are two sides to this story.
Right.
Right. And I want you to be able to have a voice. That's why you're here. This is so you can have a voice. These people have been beating you up on social media, in the comments. Say what you need to say. Say how it made you feel. Right. Don't acknowledge that. You can't sweep that under the rug. And I'm a woman that's been cheated on. But I needed him to have a voice in that moment, to share how he felt.
Yeah, I noticed one of the things, I did a survey a long time ago, and the number one thing that men want is to be looked at with respect.
Mm-hmm.
That's the number one thing, is respect.
Yeah.
And what I found out about the number one thing for women was they wanted security.
Mm-hmm.
In the aspect that this man is going to not only take care of the home, but secure me mentally and physically as my husband or my partner, my life partner. Absolutely. And I find it so interesting that the level that people will go to disrespect someone, and once that goes, especially for men, because they take things very personal, that route, then they're going to say, okay, if she doesn't respect me, I don't have much left anymore with this relationship. Right. I need to. And so he went to the most valuable thing in that relationship was his babies, because children will always love both parents. They're going to love both parents. And to them, their parents can't do no wrong. So he went to covet that relationship and take care of that relationship and build on that. I can't build on something that, the Bible is very clear about two people walking together. You can't build nothing.
Right.
You go one way, absolutely. You can't take the jackass with the ox. One is going to stay and one wants to move. And the one that want to stay, you can't make no progress with.
Right. The thing about it is, you got to, like, in those types of situations, those situations don't get like that overnight. There was somewhere, something happened, a disconnect, and then it was a long string of certain scenarios that it just, maybe he didn't respond or stand up for himself, or he allowed something to go on too long, and now you're being disrespected because there's a pattern of behavior here. So, yeah, no. You gotta speak up. You can't as a man, you can't just let a woman just do that. You're not gonna be happy.
Right. And it's not just, I won't just say blaming men too, because there's women. And men have, I've seen on the opposite perspective where women get their identity taken or get it stranglehold to that husband or that man.
Right.
And he has a relationship and takes off and leaves.
But that's because I just had this conversation with someone today. Women who are not happy with themselves, they live vicariously through their relationships. These men define who they are because they're not okay with themselves. And so they do tolerate certain behaviors because they live vicariously. Their identity is tied up into whoever this man is. And they haven't achieved or accomplished something within them, a self-worth issue. They can be extremely successful, but it's still something lacking there that causes them to just let it be or tolerate. I used to be that woman. That's why I can speak to this. You know, I wasn't okay with me. I wasn't okay with where I was in life. I hadn't achieved, you know, the level of success that I wanted. And maybe I felt like this person had more value than me, or I looked at him in that way, or, you know, and so I lived vicariously. And so I would turn my head to certain things. But see, there's a catch-22 to that, because you turn your head too many times, you're going to have that, you know, when you're going to have that, when you internalize a lot of that stuff, it's going to be an implosion. It's going to be a mess. It's like blowing air into a balloon, and you just blow it and blow it and blow it, and then you let it go, and that thing is all over the place, crazy. And that's what happens when you put yourself in those types of situations. You will take it for a while, but then something is going to click, and then you're going to lose it.
Right.
But that is the issue when you see women. It's because it's a self-worth, it's a self-esteem issue, and they're living vicariously through their part. Some people are defined by having a man, a mate. And I think that's one of the reasons why I have the platform that I have. God has purposely shelved me. I'm 48 years old and I've never been married, don't have any children, and really haven't had a real healthy relationship. Like, I've had situationships, yes, you know, like most people, but I haven't had a healthy relationship. And that's because I had to be okay with me first. Like, I had to finally get to a point, because I was seeking God for the relationship, like authentically seeking, but I wasn't whole either. So when you are seeking God authentically, He's going to deal with you first. Now, if you move prematurely, that's you. That's all you. That's all you. But if you are seeking God for direction and instruction, He is going to deal with you first. And then once He deals with you, then He'll bring it together.
Right. I agree with that. A lot of times,
I have another question.
Get that other mate. Go ahead.
Courtney has a question.
Go ahead.
So
Go ahead,
what
Courtney.
happens is they don't learn from their ways. Sometimes some people are stuck in their ways. So you can, you say what you did to motivate you to do what you had to get out of your situation, but not everybody's, they are motivated, but it's like stuck. And then
I wasn't motivated. I just kept getting dumped. I ain't gonna lie to you. I can't take credit for that. I got tired of men telling me they didn't want to be with me. So I finally got to the point where I was like, you know what?
That was
I'll
the
never let
motivation.
another man tell me
That was the motivation.
But I had to keep going through it though before I got to that point.
So it's like but then what some people do, they turn it as a guilt thing more than like, what do you mean? You know, they like, you almost kind of fell into that trap. What do you mean? And like, so what advice you would give on that? No, other than, you know, what you did, you fought through and say, hey, I'm gonna make this better for me, so they can, you know, I can be who I am. But how can you, you know, what would you do? You know, kind of give them advice and like, hey, you know, to kind of get themselves so they get the right mindset, understanding it's not their fault because where you are. It's because, you know, you gotta think about, you know, from a different eye. Either way, it could be a woman looking at a man or a man looking at a woman. Either way.
I think that the most important thing is that you tap into purpose. Guys, I spent years pleading and petitioning God for a husband. And you know what I got? You know what the answer to that prayer was? Purpose. It was not a husband. It was purpose. And no matter how hard I tried to make certain situations work, it never worked. Like, I would come and meet someone that I like, and I would already be like, when is this going to end? I already know. because, and I guess I knew subconsciously that I just wasn't in a space or ready, because I, again, would get too excited. You didn't even know the person long enough, already thinking about walking down the aisle. Whereas now I'm like, I don't want to be distracted. Like I'm in tune. I know what God said. So if it doesn't look like what his word says, then you're not the one. And I had to build that strength, that muscle, that internal muscle to get to the point where I'm not so desperate that I got to connect with the first thing that shows me attention, but really hone in on purpose, what God called you to do, and put your energy in that. I'm too busy to think about being lonely. Like I'd be lying if I said I'm lonely. I'm single right now. I am not lonely because I'm extremely busy. Like he made it that way. I engulf myself in purpose. Now I still believe God for a husband. I really do. But I recognize through my own studies, I'm a student of the word. I love to study the word. That's just a part of me. He gave me that. So I'm in the word, seeing, I want to know what God got to say about it. Good, bad, or indifferent. And I have found that when I try to do it my own way, it never works. It is like some of them crazy situations. You're like, I cannot make this up. Like, that's because he's like, no, he frustrates it and he won't allow it to work until you get you together. I had to focus in on purpose. Like I had to do my God-given assignment. I had to do I had to be obedient, right? He is that real and tangible, in my life where I'm like, I already know this is going to be a mess because, you can kind of see, I say, so now when I see, I'm like, okay, I know, God, I know you ain't telling me to do this. I was telling myself I could just be friends, even though in your heart, because our heart, right? And I said, let me go ahead and just cut this. Let me go ahead before you let it cut me. Let me just go ahead and cut this and go my way.
So you just
cut and run.
You just cut and run.
It's like you get tired of getting whooping. You get whooped enough, you're gonna be like, nah, I'm good. I don't want that whooping. You keep that whooping because his whoopings hurt, because he whoops us in a way that it hurts, because some people are like, well, because like a relationship may not be your issue. It's my issue. It may be something else with you. He's gonna get you how it hurts. It don't have to be that way. But for me, it's always been relationally. So I have learned to tap into my purpose, focus on what he told me to do, and sit back. Don't put my hands in. I'm alpha. I told y'all that I'm gonna try to control the situation. You cannot control God. Telling he gonna do what he want to do. I'm telling you, when you think he gonna sit you down. So it's just best to sit back, do what he told you to do, and wait. That's coming from somebody who is a control freak.
So,
purpose.
You have something you want to ask?
No, just a comment. A lot of the things that you said, Ms. Chanel, I can relate to because this is I'm going into my second and knock on wood, by the grace of God, my last marriage. So I was married for 17 years.
Oh wow!
I was married for 17 years. Yes, I'm telling you my age a little bit. So I didn't realize until someone told me different.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in a marriage, sometimes that you run a risk of being content, saying, okay, it is what it is. I can't do anything about it, this and that. And I was in a very selfish marriage. The selfishness wasn't on me because I would give anyone the shirt off my back, but the selfishness was on the other side. Mm-hmm. And where they think about themselves first before the actual marriage. And if they think about anything outside of the marriage, it's our daughter, my only daughter. So I endured it. I put up with it for so long. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't have to beg for affection and attention from you. I shouldn't have to. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't have to be on a schedule because you're in your own little world. These are some of the things that I was hurting on. But I don't have that anymore. But initially I had put up with it for so long and it had gotten to a point where it's becoming unbearable. There's got to be more to marriage than this. Mm-hmm. When you're the one doing most of the work, you just now looked at like you're just an ATM.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this: at what point did it get that way? Because I know you didn't marry into a situation and it was that way.
That's a very good question. When did it get that way? It got that way at least 10 years, the first 10 years, no, 12 years into the marriage. No, correction. Everything was fine up until the 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then things started to unravel. You know, when water starts to drip into a bucket after a while and it becomes a full-blown thing, and then there's some issues going on, but they sidestep it. They sidestep the issue. They sweep it underneath the rug till it starts to show. That's where things started to change in my 13th, 14th year. Things were like, okay. So I just focused on work. I focused on just doing what I love to do, which is acting, writing and acting.
Mm-hmm.
I focused on that. And, you know, we just kind of grew apart.
Because it takes two people.
It takes two people to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted the marriage to work because I always had that fear, Lord, I don't want to be another statistic, another divorce, you know, and stuff like that. I was always worried about pulling the trigger because I've been wanting to pull the trigger before it hit 17 years. I wanted to pull the trigger, but then again, I wanted to be righteous. I wanted to be this good guy because I didn't want to have to answer to God that, why did you walk away from your marriage? I made sure I did everything I possibly could. I went to counseling multiple occasions. I went to counseling by myself. They didn't want to chip in. So just like you were about to say, it takes two people to make this work, and both of them have to equally want it.
Right. But in those situations where she left you, like there were moments where you didn't take a stand. What we were talking about earlier, you just
I didn't take a stand. I let everything roll. Oh, I let everything roll over, and I was content. But I wanted more. I'm not ashamed to say this. I wanted more. I said, there's got to be more in a marriage than this.
But did you ask for more?
Multiple occasions that I can't even count. I can't even count. But fast forward, 7 years later, am I in a happier place right now? Absolutely. Absolutely. My fiance that I'm with now, I can't ask for anything better. You know, it's like everything that I expected in a marriage that I would like in a marriage has been provided, and vice versa. It goes both ways. It goes both ways. And because I always knew there's got to be more than just this. There are many men and women who are out there today who are trapped in a marriage or in a marriage just for beneficial reasons.
It sounds like there was a lack of purpose. You sound like me, not in the context of marriage, but just in life. When I graduated from college, I was like, there's got to be more to life than this.
That's where I was.
That's going to work and paying bills. I used to say that all the time. And so that's the important part is when you do connect with the right person, that you guys have a mission and a purpose that's greater than the both of you. And you tap into that. Like the relationship is like the bonus. It's like the icing on the cake. But God brings two people together for kingdom work. Like all the other stuff we be into, like, oh, you're so cute and all that. That's extra. That's not even the purpose. That's not even the purpose of why you two together. It's great to have that attraction, and you will if you see God, but it's so much bigger than the two of you. And if you're connecting on something less than that, then you'll be bored in the relationship. Like, it's got to be more to this.
Like my fiance that I'm with now, we have similar paths. Our paths are aligned. We share the same goals. We share the same dreams. Same goals, same dreams, everything. But in my previous life, it's like when I'm on stage or when I'm on set, when I'm filming and stuff like that, you know, your spouse will cheer you on and support and stuff like that. I got zero.
But I think you missed before you got married. It's got to be something you missed. You missed something.
It was something I missed, yes. And I take ownership for that. Oh, I take full ownership for that. I'm not ashamed to take accountability and ownership for anything, either good or bad. If it's on me, it's on me. It was something that I missed. It was something that I missed. Was there good moments? Yeah, but that was at the initial stage of the marriage, maybe the first couple of years or so. It was everything was okay, but then I don't know what happened. I know I tried to make the marriage interesting. I try to get excited about it, and stuff. I had dreams. I have dreams, still have dreams. I became an actor. I still have my job. I became an actor and I'm writing and producing, and I still work like everybody else. But when it came to my passion, she didn't care about it. There was no care.
That's how you know that that's not the right one. That's like the number one indicator when the person doesn't show interest in what you're doing.
And I was nothing but a walking ATM. Mm-hmm. I remember there was a time in my life I was living in the city. General was laughing at me. There was a time I was living in Detroit, Michigan. Mm-hmm. I was working in Detroit, but I lived in Atlanta. I was flying back and forth. Mm-hmm. You know it's bad when you come back, you fly back home to Atlanta for the weekend, and you feel like a guest in your own home.
So you allowed it to get that way.
I allowed it, and I take full responsibility. For it. I allowed it to get to that point because I always believed, okay, God can turn this around, but it takes two people going to have to want it.
Say something, man. Why are you laughing?
He's laughing. Come on, go ahead.
Speak.
I have to laugh because what Mr.
I have to laugh too.
I know you laughing, Gut, but I would laugh at you too. What amazes me is this, and I take like a military mentality to some certain things in life, and especially with life. When things are cancerous, you need to hurry up and cut it off quick because it metastasizes, it grows, and it attaches itself to other organs or other things that will just die. And what you want to do is cut that off. But Mr. Nell said it right. She's like, look, you missed something from the dating scene because it was revealed to you. It's like that GPS, when it goes off and it's telling you you're going the wrong way, and you choose like, I'm going to take a shortcut, and the shortcut is closed, guess what? You should have turned around when you had the opportunity, and guess what? God was telling you. Guess your GPS.
I ignored the signs from God.
You ignored it because she was pretty. I bet. I know it. She was pretty. If she was pretty.
I don't think it's. I'm not. I wasn't. Let me just rephrase this. I wasn't laughing at you, Tobie. It's just the fact that whole agent thing again. I always say that. Everybody puts that out there.
You know why, guys? I stood in there, and this is for everybody out there.
You believe. You had a belief.
I had to believe. I believed, and I believe it was going to change. And I was so scared at the time, not anymore. I don't want to use the word scared, but I was concerned. I didn't want that status quo of divorce. I'm a divorcee, and stuff, because I believe you're in it to the end. But when you're not happy, you're not happy. And last time I checked, I think
that's ego. That's ego, Tobie. That's ego, honey. Yeah. That is ego. You didn't want people to know that your marriage was failing. It's not you were in it to the end. Because let me tell you something, that is not of God. He does not want you to be in a situation where you're unhappy and miserable and all those.
Right. But then again, I'm like, right. I said, okay, I have to answer to God. I divorced.
I think it's something different.
But that's not an excuse to stay. That's an excuse to stay when you say I got to answer to God, because God was frustrating in the situation the entire time.
But this is the same God now that condemns divorce. What am I supposed to do?
Listen, when people start you took that scripture right out of the book. Now you got to have context to that thing, because you got to get a revelation for your life. Right. Okay, you got to ask God to speak through that scripture to you for your situation. The moment you said it's got to be more, that was him right there. He was telling you there ain't no purpose to this thing. You just wasting your time at this point, honestly.
Because I'm not in the midst of it.
Because I'm not in it.
I like to say this about ministry, right? I like to say this about relationships on a spiritual level. When someone comes into your inner circle that you allow, ask these two questions. Who sent them and why?
That's right.
Who sent them and why? because there's a purpose. If the enemy sent them, it is to deter you from your purpose. If the Father sent them, it is to build a relationship, no matter if it's not marriage, but to get you to your purpose, right? And so the reason why I laugh is I challenge you. The reason why you stayed is one thing you didn't say. It had to do with your culture. It had to do with your mom and dad. It had to do with honor, right? Because you made a bad pick, right? You stayed with that bad pick instead of cutting it loose and explaining your real heart and said, I was deceived to thinking that she was one thing than she was another. I am a lot more honorable than that, than to go through misery and then bring a child into it, which really hurts even more. And so the challenge for you was to try to keep your honor and stick with it and hope that it changes. But if the enemy sent that, that was a roadblock from day one to get you off your purpose. And when you don't understand that, and when I said, remember the two things I always say this, Tobie. There's two things that most people do not ever get taught: how to deal with relationships and how to handle money.
Yes.
One of the most tragic things, especially in Western culture. If we got taught that, do you know how powerful that you really would be? Most men miss that. Most women miss that because we don't get taught, right? We get taught how to write letters. We get taught how to email. We get computers. But the most crucial things in life are relationships and how to handle finances. And we don't get taught that. You can go spend $120,000 and get a doctorate degree and be broke as all get out, right? And make six figures and still never know how to handle money and two, how to handle relationships. So it's tragic. But that's why you stayed, my brother.
Okay. But I learned from it.
That's right.
I learned from it.
You get another chance.
And I'm at the happiest place. I'm at the happiest place in my life right now. So I'm happy, you know. Women will be women and men will be men. There's going to be debates, spirited debates, arguments here and there. But overall, I'm in a very good place in my life. Very good place. Me and her are at a very good place. And I learned the things that I won't do from my past, I'm not going to do here. And she's learned too, because she came from a relationship too. We both learned, like, okay, we're going to do things a whole lot different. And we've been at this now 7.5 years.
And so I got to ask you, as a woman, a single woman, why 7 years? Because I'm not giving nobody 7 years of my life. I'm not doing it. Not.
Well, we're both accountable for it. We wanted to make sure that this is what we want. We've actually told God, we've both prayed to God, if this is not for us, God, to please remove us from the situation.
Okay.
We've both had issues. We've had challenges. This 7.5 years was no cakewalk. We've learned so much more about each other now, something I didn't do in my past. We got to know more about each other. And of course, we were a little older. I'm a little older. We were not rushing. You know, I mean, it's different for other people, but we chose not to rush. Did I have some challenges after my divorce? Yeah. I had a very persistent baby mama drama, you know, and we wanted to get all the kinks out the way, you know, all out the way. And we just took our time. It wasn't that we were not rushing.
Okay.
You know, some people, they get married after 2-3 years, standard, 2-3 years or so after being together, 4 years. But we just chose to take our time.
That's not normal.
Well, it doesn't work. Because it worked for us doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody else.
No, I'm saying being together 4 years to get married, that's not normal.
Okay. So, but it works for us. And if I had a chance to do it again, Chanel, I would do it again.
No, but let me just say this, because what we want to set the right example, because we have other people that are listening. These relationships are to be purpose driven. So if they're purposeful, right? There's no reason why you gotta. Now you was married and you were divorced, so I understand that, because you did it once and now you're trying to make sure you don't repeat the same.
Correct. And vice versa for her as well.
And vice versa for her. But for someone who's on their first marriage, that is not normal. If someone is making you single for 7, no, they don't know what they want. Number one, don't give anyone your youth like that. No, sir. No, you're going to resent it later. I promise. That's too much. But for someone who's done it before, absolutely, I understand. You want to make sure you're not making the same mistakes. But for someone who's on that first relationship.
Okay, for someone who's never done it. Okay, for my viewers out there, I was all caught up in my own little world. I take ownership for that. That's on me. That's on me. But we both, me and my fiance, we've been married before, so there was no rush this time for us. We wanted to make sure.
Right, and she was married too.
Right.
So you got to tell the people everything. She was married before, so they've been married before, so they took their time, guys. Before,
but for rookies out there, okay, no, it's not.
No,
it ain't for the weak. So
no,
I've been through it.
Because I want you to talk about, go back to the very beginning when you. How long did you date your first wife before you guys got married?
2 years.
How long?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. And at what point did you know she was the one for you?
It was in the third or fourth year, something like that.
After you got married?
No. After we got married?
No, you said you dated her for 2 years, right?
We dated her. Yeah, my first marriage, I dated her for about 2 years, and then we got married.
So at what point did you know she was the one for you?
I think it was about maybe a year and a half.
Because you know I'm about to pick you apart.
Okay.
So the reason I say that is because when you go into a relationship, you should go into it with a purpose, right? Unless you're just dating to just do a test drive. If you're not dating with intentionality, if you just want to see, you want to go with the flow, but that's not, we're doing purpose-driven relationships. You go in with the idea, is this person my purpose partner? Because if they're not, I'm not wasting no time.
That was my intent.
Okay.
That was my intent.
But if it took you, what, a year and a half to 2 years?
Yeah.
Then that's how I know something was my wrong.
Intent. That was my intent. Okay. And I didn't exercise, again, I'm a man that takes ownership. I did not exercise enough patience.
Okay.
I didn't go deeper.
Okay.
Were there signs of it? Yeah, there were signs.
You know why you didn't go deeper? Were you afraid?
No.
Were you afraid to go deeper?
No, actually I wasn't. I went in head, clear head.
But let me ask you, what was intriguing about this woman?
Her demeanor at the time. She was
a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to ruffle. I mean, because I can hear, I'm like reading between the lines in your story, sir.
Yeah, I'm not
we just go with the flow, especially when somebody is beautiful to us. We don't want to ruffle we just want to go. We don't want to lose it. We don't want to run the risk of upsetting or losing. So we just kind of let things go and kind of go with the flow because we really like them.
To some extent,
cute. We think this, we think that. And then you end up in a situation like what you ended up, you can't be afraid. That's where self-worth and self-esteem comes in at, because when you value yourself more than you value that other person, the moment those things showed up in your relationship, because I know they did, I'm listening to you, I know they did, you should have been like, okay, that's it. That's not for me. It's not a good fit.
Yeah, I take ownership and borderline stupidity for staying that long.
Mistake, because I made a lot of mistakes.
There was signs on the wall. I ignored it because I kept keeping the faith. Like it's gonna change. It's gonna change. It's gonna change. But then
that's who she was. It's like if somebody tell you who they are, you gotta believe.
And I realized the selfishness of her. I realized how selfish, and I, talk about self-fulfilling prophecy. I said, your selfishness is going to cost us. I kept saying it, I think around maybe the 15th or 14th or 15th year. I kept telling her, your selfishness is going to cost us dearly. I promise you, if you don't change, and if we don't change this thing, it's going to cost. And sure enough, that is exactly what happened.
But that's who she was, though. You was trying to change the very essence of who she was as a person. So that's incompatibility at its finest. Like when situations like that happen, you guys just wasn't compatible. And she wasn't willing to change because she didn't see enough value. And you allowed it. You allowed it.
Oh yeah, I take ownership. That's
you
on
allowed
me.
it.
That's on me. That's on me.
And the reason I'm saying is because I have gone through, like, now my cutoff game is strong. But I'm 48 too, though. I got to be 48 to strengthen that muscle. Like, I could thank you all of that, but I value me than I value you. And if I see inconsistencies in the very beginning, I have told someone, he was so offended by me when I told him that. I said, sir, don't call me no more. Take my phone number out your phone, please. But he got offended. But he was inconsistent in his behavior. He didn't call back. He'd be like, I'm gonna call you back. It'd be 3 days. And I almost got, because he had the hot energy. You got this hot energy, but it was still bullshit. Excuse my language, but it was the hot energy that gets you fooled. Because like, hey, I'm so excited to hear from me. But his behavior and the patterns were very evident. And I said, yeah, this is something else going on. He's trying to back pocket me, and I ain't nobody's back pocket. I'm front pocket or no pocket. Don't call me no more. And I thought it was so attractive, and I said, nope.
Yeah.
But it took me to get 48 to be able to. I was shocked at myself. I was like, you better go, girl. But I was like, nope, I'm good because I'm good with me. So I'm not looking to live vicariously through somebody else and what they've accomplished.
But then again, now, my life now, like I said, I'm in a very happy place in my life. Because for the first time, I really feel genuinely that my fiance actually loves me for who I am, me. Not because there's something I can do for her or something I can give her. It's because she genuinely cares for me. This woman is like, to the point now, like, if I spit, she's the one that comes out because she knows when I'm not in a good mood. She knows this is something that I didn't take the time to do in my previous life. But now, I already knows when I'm not in a good mood. She knows when I'm happy. She knows if something's going on, and I do the same thing for her as well. I picked with her. I said, when those two eyebrows touch each other like this, okay, something ain't right.
Hey, Tobie.
What's wrong, honey? Yeah.
I know that you said that you love her and she loves you. But my question to you is this one thing. If there was no money, right? Would you love yourself and be as happy and content with yourself without one?
With my age now? Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Because
it's
not sounding like it, but I'm asking you that because in all seriousness, before you can be with anyone else, you have to be attracted to yourself. In other words, I love myself.
It was something I lacked. It was something I lacked back then because I
girlfriend, or I don't have. That's this thing I have that I have to get printed out. It says, "Be married to your purpose. Marry your purpose, and you will always be happy." Right, and it's a true saying that I have. Marry your purpose.
I believe it.
Because if you marry your purpose, you will always be happy, and it's about knowing yourself. Right. Now, I even tell my children that. My adult children, you cannot go into relationships if you don't know yourself.
That's right.
That should be the number one requirement. Never get in a relationship. My parents never told me nothing like that. You got to get, it's almost like the first requirement that God does, it's almost like being skull drugged. You're going to get drugged first and get heartache and broken before you wake up and realize that I need to know myself. Because then I would not waste their time, my time, and my resources.
And I did not take myself, and I did not give myself that time to do what you said in my past life. That's why this time around, we both exercise patience for each other, issues, challenges that we were both facing as individuals and as together. We were able to go through it. I know what her expectations are from me. She knows what the expectations are. Vice versa, she knows that it was something I did not train or learn in my previous life. And now I'm doing it now. And it's like, whew.
I'm proud of you, brother, because 7 years, brother.
That's a long time.
That's not me. And this is what I believe Miss Chanel was saying is this. When you know, and maybe it's one of the things that I try to teach is this one thing. When people say they know God, but do you really know him? Because if you can hear him, that means you know his word. You can't act contrary to it. How do you stay that long in something you have no business being in? Because he will agitate you to force you to leave. And my thing is this. I can only speak for myself about the relationship, about when I married my wife, and I can tell you how long it took. And I'm talking about I'm extremely in tune, and I knew it was him. I'm just a firm believer. Like when Miss Chanel said, I'm about to pick you apart, there was a whole lot of things that you let lapse for that long, because in doing life in relationships, it doesn't. Not when you're doing communication day in and day out. Not when you're practically seeing someone so much that it takes that long. There is not only an emotional attachment, but there is something cognitive in us that we bring, that we know. And when we ask God to be involved in something, God doesn't take long to respond. It's normally us. It's normally us who takes so long to say.
Because
well,
when you said,
it's just that you're not listening.
When you said that it's about me, I was like, you know what? There's more to life than what I'm going through right now in this marriage. That was literally God telling me something. Mm-hmm. There's more to life than what I've been going through right now. Instead of being looked at as an ATM machine, and you travel for 2 years, flying back and forth between Detroit and Atlanta, paying for a house that I rarely lived in. I could be gone for months, come home, and I'm a guest in my own home. Those were the signs, but I ignored it.
You were there before then, my friend, because it took that level of agitation to make you move.
Yeah.
It took that level of agitation. He already kept alerting you, but it took that level of agitation to make you move. I'm telling you, Tobie, I've seen people, it's sometimes a certain type of level of agitation to make you move. And it takes.
That's a word right there, because you made me think about myself. I'm like, okay, so that's what that was, Lord, because I didn't understand.
And Miss Chanel, you said compatibility.
If she wouldn't have did that, if she'd have gave you a little bit of attention, you would have stayed. She'd have kept on the same pace and just not as hard, you would have stayed.
Yeah, and the compatibility. Chanel, you hit it on the head.
And guess what?
Compatibility for sure.
Your brain would have told you it's okay and adapt. And guess what it would have did? Exactly what I told you.
I tried to adapt.
And you would have justified it. You would have justified it while you continue to stay in that.
Yeah.
It's mental abuse, and then it's physical neglect on your resources.
Right.
And then also just a word of accountability for those listening, because people will say, oh, this person did this. It be these dramatic breakups, right? When it finally comes to a head, it's like this dramatic, like just something crazy. And you're like, this person did that to me. This person did that to me. But no, God had been agitating the situation long before it got to that point, but it had to be all out and dramatic to get you to leave. I think about myself. I was in a business partnership, and I liked the gentleman. And I just know nothing that he did. Like, he was so mean to me, guys. I ain't even gonna lie. Made me feel like worthless, really. But but we had one thing in common. We had the ability to do these shows. We had a podcast, and he did some of my shows when it was a live event with me as my partner. And I was so intrigued by him. He was a professional basketball player, handsome. And I just said, God, we got this in common. He's got to be like my purpose partner, because why would you send someone into my life he loved what we do even more than I did. I'm gonna tell you, it finally got to the point where I wouldn't leave. I wouldn't let the situation go. This man went and got 2 different women pregnant. Now, we were just partners, but within a year, babies. And he already had 4 babies. He had 3 babies with the ex-wife and 1 prior. He went and got 2 other women, like babies. And I said, there's no way in hell. I know, there's no way. I know this ain't what you got for me. I know this ain't what you got for me. So I am out of here. But it took that. But I still tried to like hang in there, even with that, like, because we were not partnering during the time, because it happened in a short period of time, like within a 9-month period, and then someone else got pregnant. But then it got even worse. It got even worse. Like, it's like when I'm listening to you and I'm thinking back over my own situation, I'm like, so that's what that was. So God, you was like, you had to take it to that extreme to finally get me
to get your attention. To get your attention.
I'm done. Like, I'm telling you guys, we were working as early as the first part of 2022. He did my first event with me of 2022. I'm just being real transparent. And everything was going well. Even though he had these 2 babies, I'm thinking, we still gonna work it out, because we got this purpose together. We're gonna do this thing. And then this man comes to me. No, I think I discerned it, and I asked him. He didn't tell me anything. I discerned it. The young lady who had the baby, she was from Florida, lived in Florida. She came to Atlanta to stay with him for a month with the baby. I said, you must be out your mind. I don't want to partner with you no more. I don't work with you. Like, it's like, and then he was absent. He couldn't meet up as much as we were meeting to strategize and do all the things that we were doing, because she was there. And then that's when I said, I can't do this. Like, I've tried. And then, like, we had this partnership. We were doing different things. I was helping him on some things. I was like, now, I didn't mind pouring into him when it was just him, but everything that I'm depositing into my quote unquote business partnership, she's benefiting off of my work. Hell no. No. And it took that for me to just, it took that for whatever that thing was on the inside of me to break and be like, enough is enough. Because I kept trying. It's like Jonah. Jonah was on that boat, and they was like, Jonah was like, throw me off of the ship. I'm the problem. They was trying to row. They was trying to make it work, right? They was on the ship. It was like, where are you from? Like, they couldn't understand like why they had this storm. And Jonah was like, I'm the problem. And that's essentially what he was saying by doing these different things. Like, it was like one thing after the next. And I'm like, nobody in their right mind would think this is okay. How do you think this is okay? And he was telling me in his own way by doing those things, throw me off of the ship, throw me off, and I threw his ass off the ship. So, but it had to get that crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
To make a decision to say, you know what, this can no longer. So let me back up, because I'm not being completely and totally honest. I threw him off, but I didn't verbally throw him off because I was still afraid. I didn't have the courage. So what I did was I just stopped talking to him. I didn't say, hey, I don't want to partner with you anymore. I just stopped talking to him, and he took himself off of the ship because he was like, she doesn't talk to me anymore. It's difficult. It's frustrating. I'm frustrated. And so finally he got tired of dealing with the silence, and he took himself off the ship. Because I was like, unless we talk about business, it's nothing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't do it. I couldn't say, I don't want to work with you anymore. I didn't have the courage to say that. But he got frustrated enough, and he let himself off.
And that's that point of when he agitate us, we got to know that it's him. Mm-hmm. And when we trust in God, he mm-hmm. always have a better avenue. And, mm-hmm. and I love what a dear old friend said to me some decades ago in ministry. He said, I was listening to him say, thank you, Lord. Mm-hmm. I thank you for the more of the doors you kept closed than the doors mm-hmm. that you opened for me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because if those doors are open, we got to know that there's an enemy that'll open the door that mm-hmm. seems like an opportunity mm-hmm. that will set me up mm-hmm. for a road that looks good when I start off, but then it becomes all rocky.
Right, it's a dead end. But then not only this, you can't advance in your purpose until you let certain people go. I'm gonna tell you guys, the day that this man announced on his social media platform that he was no longer a part of my show was the day that Fox Soul called me. The very same day. The same day.
That's God right there.
The same day.
Ooh, that is him.
Imagine if it would have happened sooner. I got the call sooner.
Yeah, right. It was like hanging in the balance. God wouldn't let it because we were in communication, but it just wasn't landing. It was hanging in the balance. And as soon as he let himself go, boom, the call came. Yeah. Same thing with my book. We were doing the book together. We attempted to do this book 2 different times. We fell out 2 different times. The book never I even put money into the book. The book never happened. Now, guess what? The book is going to be released February the 14th. Because it was never supposed to be done with him. So God kept frustrating it to the point that we wouldn't speak for months. It was crazy. But I couldn't catch. As much as I was into the word, that's another thing that those of us who are Christians and we study, we can't manipulate the word to fit our own agenda. Because I was in the word when all that was going on, right? But I was trying to make it fit because that was me. And those signs were there, but I'm like, I made excuses for it. I didn't want to accept the truth, And so, I'm telling you, 2 different times we tried to do that book. We had a drop down blowout at a writing session. God was just like, no. So,
Miss Chanel, thank you. Thank you. We went over, but it was worth it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was worth it.
So you got something out of it, huh, Tobie?
Oh, I think we both got something out of it. out of this. I think the 3 of us got something out of each other that we've shared with our viewers. The purpose of the show, to share our thoughts with our viewers and hear from our viewers on occasion and learn and see how we can use what we learn to execute our challenges and issues in life. So, Ms. Chanel, thank you so much. I don't want to push my luck for a part 3, but we're gonna have to bring you back in on a later day. on a later date. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Ms. Chanel, where can you be reached? Please let the world know.
You guys can reach me on all the social media platforms at Chanel Nicole Scott. On Twitter, Chanel N. Scott. And you can also reach CheMinistry at CheMinistry Live on all social media platforms and just CheMinistry on Twitter.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Chanel, thank you so much.
Thank
General,
you.
Want to close us out?
Say that one time.
Yeah, I said one of the generals to close us out.
Oh, close us out.
Okay. As always, we appreciate your time. We thank you for my co-host, for my special guest, Ms. Chanel Scott. Outstanding job about relationships and about truth in relationships. Because a lot of times we don't get truth in relationships. We get sugar-coated candy about relationships. And we need to know how to navigate them, what we think about ourselves and how we treat ourselves. In this segment, we were morally talking about the reason why we have the issues we have in relationships was really, it's about us. We are the common denominator gets to make the choice if you come into our inner circle and get to know who we are. And so the first thing I love is what Miss Chanel says, Miss Scott says, is, hey, before you go trying to dig on other people and be with them and get with them and try to walk down the aisle, get to know who you really are.
Know who you are.
So that way you won't waste their time and you won't waste yours. And especially if my producer like to call them the agent, you run into them who want to showcase their gifts first and not really get to see the real part of who they are, all the hurt and pain that they're dragging along with them in that bag. Then you can hurry up.
Right there. That's a whole other show.
Yeah. So we glad that you joined us. We hopefully you learned something. We were transparent. We love you guys. We appreciate you, and we hope to see you soon on the next Mind of a Man. Thank you, Miss Chanel. I was about to call you Dr. Scott, rocking the box. We appreciate you. Keep dropping that science or that knowledge. That shows you how old school.
Guys, before we hop off, I did, because I won't get to talk to you anymore. I have a show taping and the book launch on February the 19th at the Gathering spot. Like, hit me up so I can put you on the list so you can come. I love to see you guys in person. That's gonna be like a power-packed event just because we have
February
the 19th at 4 o'clock.
At the where?
The Gathering spot downtown, right by the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Gathering spot. Okay.
Yeah, the Gathering spot. And I'll be posting more information about it soon. As a matter of fact, like, I'm waiting on all the banners and things. They'll go up tomorrow. And
I'll send you a Facebook Messenger message.
Yeah, so because I would love to see
we're friends on
all.
Facebook now. So
I'll
reach out. February 19th. I'll put it here on my desk.
Yeah, put it on your calendar.
Okay.
Bring your significant other.
Okay.
Bro, look, bro. We're gonna be talking about the blueprint of a healthy relationship.
All right.
So I'll actually have some couples on this one to kind of spearhead that. Yeah.
Okay. Oh boy. Woo! Man, I would love to see that. It's a good thing. I was like, oh man, she might call me like, Tobie, you and your fiance, come on up.
There you go.
You better people now. I ain't gonna do that to you.
Woo!
Yeah, so guys, make sure you put it on your calendar. I love to see you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Blessings to y'all.